Hi, Zach Martin here with ESM. Today I want to talk to you about querying the BigFix environment, and we'll be doing that using session relevance. So what is session relevance? Well, you've probably heard of client relevance. We've discussed client relevance for fixlets, task analyses, and this allows you to inspect the local client machine, such as information about the registry or the operating system or the machine itself. Session relevance is used for finding information that's already stored in the BigFix database, such as action results, information about fixlets, property results. It's basically the information that's shown to you in the BigFix console and web UI. We use session relevance within web reports, but you can also use it in the presentation debugger in the console, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples on how to use that. First, we'll need to enable the presentation debugger, and we do that in the BigFix console by hitting Control, Alt, Shift, and D. There's a checkbox that pops up for Show Debug Menu. We'll need to check that. Now we'll have a little debug tab at the top of the BigFix console and just click Presentation Debugger. Now that we're in the Presentation Debugger, we can start querying information that's stored in the BigFix database about the environment. A simple example will be to list all of the computer names that are stored in the BigFix database that we see in the console. Using names of BES computers, we can evaluate and return all of the computers in the environment. We can also list all of the IDs of actions and the name of actions that we can currently see in the console. Now that we know we can list computers, we can list actions, let's see if we can grab an action result specifically by the action ID or a specific computer ID. And we can see that this action is waiting for restart to complete the action. So those are some of the simple examples. Once you learn the language, you can start building up from there, and you can query almost anything about the BigFix environment. Now, a far more detailed example here, we're looking at patch policy actions, which you can't really report on using BigFix right now, but you can use session relevance and query actions specifically with pp underscore at the beginning of the name and find all of the patch policy actions. We can also look at the results. Now, this information here is almost useless, but we know that the relevance works. Let me show you how to bring this relevance into a web report so that we can view it properly. Now that we're in web reports, you can test this same session relevance that we just tested in the presentation debugger in the Q&A page. So up at the top in the URL bar, page equals Q&A. Here we can paste the same relevance that we used earlier and click evaluate. We'll see the results. Great. Now that we have the session relevance evaluating properly in web reports, we can now tailor a custom report to meet our needs of displaying this information. I have some JavaScript code here that uses data tables to take the relevance and present it in a way that it's legible and usable in a custom web report. Now we can see a nicely formatted data table with all of the action IDs, the patch policy names, the patches within the policy, and the results of that patch, whether it failed, whether it's pending restart, or successful. Hopefully now that you've seen just a little bit of session relevance, this will spark some ideas in your own head about custom web reports, querying the environment, figuring out your information needs, and tailoring the reports to suit those needs. These are just some of the simple things that you can do, but you can get far more complex with creating custom web reports, pulling the information out into Power BI, and finding much more information that you can currently see in the BigFix console.